when they're supposed to give you a service that they are legally obligated to do, they tell you to go screw yourself. And so my favorite was when I finally, third time I go down to the French consulate, and I meet with the consul. I explain to him, I say, everybody's screwing me around, my husband's, he's gonna kill me, you know, and everybody's trying to cover it up and shut me up. They're defrauding me of everything, and I know exactly why, because, of course, how do you shut somebody up? You put them into poverty, you throw them in the streets, and of course, they're struggling just to get food and a roof over their heads, which I've been doing for the past, 12 years since I've been back in Washington, because of all of this discrimination against white trophy wives, deposed trophy wives. So anyway, go to the consulate. Now, the French consul, he tells me, so I said, okay, you're not going to help me. I said, look, he wants to throw me in prison or a psychiatric ward. Where am I better off? He said, oh, in prison, because then you can ask for extradition from Spain and serve out your sentence in France. This is the kind of stuff. Now, there's a Spanish woman at that time who was sitting in a New Jersey prison, and she's a lawyer, Maria Jose Carrascosa. Many of you, anybody who might Google her, she's been out there. Everybody in the domestic violence arena kind of knows about her. She spent 8 years under contempt of court, in a jail in Bergen County, New Jersey, when that court had no jurisdiction over the case. And her consulate hung her out to dry like you can't believe. I don't know why she's not suing the Spanish government for a whole lot of money. So, then, let's see. That's the French embassy. And when I see that nobody's doing anything, I start, okay, who do I know that can help me? So I write to Astrid Betancourt, who's Ingrid Betancourt, the former presidential candidate of Colombia, who was also a FARC, was kidnapped and held by the FARC. And her husband at that time, she'd been his mistress in Bogota, so now she's married to him in Paris, is Ambassador Daniel Parfait, who was in Bogota, and then after that he went to Mexico, and of course he divorced her and got a younger version. These guys do this all the time. They just keep a revolving door so they can have cute young things at their arms. But the thing is, I'm like, all of you ambassadors, you're all implicated in this because you have an obligation to make sure your consulates are doing their jobs. In one of my cases, War on Domestic Terrorism, X-Files, scroll down on the right, Jimmy Ryan. This is a case in Tokyo. I mean, horrific. I'll do some video of this later, in other presentations. So when Carolyn Kennedy got in, I wrote a letter to Carolyn Kennedy. Ignore her till she goes away game. Everybody keeps on doing that. I'm like, you people can ignore me, but I am documenting in all of these letters, and I know they're long, because I am writing this for posterity, because I know you ignore her till she goes away game. And I'm not going away. I just keep on racking up another letter. Ooh, with the lockdown, I was finally able to finish all of my letters for the ICD and said, you guys, you're up a creek without a paddle. Now you can play the ignore me till I go away game, and I'll see you in court in the Nuremberg trials too, or you can get your crap together and look what's going on in your own home, in your own department. How can, with so much chaos, stupidity, I mean, the place is a S show. And everybody knows it, but everybody just, no, because if they make waves, then of course, like me, they get ousted. And the IMF HR will protect them. They even have an 8-year cooling off period if you get ousted. When they told me, they said a cooling off period, the HR woman who, when I was leaving. I said, ooh la, why would anybody need a cooling off period? And then I saw it, and then she wouldn't put it in writing for me. But then later on a job posting, it said an 8-year. Oh my goodness, I grabbed that one. I did a screenshot, and you can find it on War on Domestic Terrorism. 8 years? You guys, this is an admission of guilt. Then, when I got to the ethics advisor, Olivia Graham, she told me, this was about my workplace bullying report, she told me, well, this is illegal, but it's not immoral. And I said, my Lord, I've been hearing my entire life that this is immoral but not illegal. Now, this is the first time I've heard from you jackasses and your little witch, whores. This is illegal but not immoral. I mean, just crazy. And then when I met with Gita Ravindra, who's a mediator from the Virginia courts, oh, believe me, the Virginia courts, ask the domestic violence advocates. The Virginia courts are some of the worst in the country. This woman, I think for 25 years or so, was a mediator within the system. I'm like, lady, you're looking at life imprisonment by the time I get finished with you. And she told me that maybe if I was more conciliatory, then I would get farther with all of my work. I said, look, the first 4 years that I got back to DC, I'm like, okay, you guys, what's going on here? Because something's, wrong in Denmark. But, you guys have been around and looking at this, so what's going on? So I went to the demonstrations and stuff. Then I got farther and farther within my own research. I hope everybody will look at family court crisis newsletters that I did. That would have been, I think, around 2012 or so when I did those. Because, my research keeps on expanding like the universe, not like these idiots in this town. Which is blah, 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 blah. So anyway, it's incredible. And instead of getting somebody competent, so you got an ethics advisor with a committee, then you have the mediator, you got the ombudsman, never heard back from, but I don't care if they ignore me, same to me. I don't, you can say, oh, I never received it. I'm like, well, too bad, I sent it to you. Get yourself a secretary. This is why it's important to have secretaries who have some brains. And just, throw it away. It's not somebody important, so you throw it away. Patsy Geyer, oh my God, if you did that with Patsy Geyer, she would have raked you over the coals if not fired you. And that brings me back to affirmative action. My first experience with affirmative action would have been 82, 83 or something like that. That's when Suzanne Mayo left. I had so much admiration for her. And this was the file clerk, the person who handled all of the files for the office, which before we had computers, it was huge, the file drawers, you old guys remember, and all of the files and everything like that. And, you had to stay on top of that. The woman who came in, this was a key position. Not, no big wig position or anything like that, but a key position within the organization and its functioning and everything like that. And she'd sit there on the phone all day long. And I was like, this is incredible. Why doesn't Patsy fire her? And they said, no, she's black. She can't fire her. I was like, this is incredible. And Patsy would get so desperate, she would ask me, please, because I had helped Susan and I had even been offered the job at 17 to be the file clerk for the summer. That's how impressed they were when I went to work for them in April of that would have been 1981, my senior year of high school. And I was offered the job for the summer. My mom wouldn't let me take it, but that's another story. Anyway, you need competent administrative people. It gets back to managerialism. Everybody wants to be a bigwig. but they don't understand anything they're doing. Excuse me, if you're a manager and you don't do your job and you know, you got crap all over the place, it's your fault. I'll get into later on a video I saw with Christine Lagarde, and she's like, oh, when the House of Cards, I think it was with Michael Lewis. Oh, when the House of Cards falls down, it's not going to be my fault. Excuse me? The woman was a finance minister in France. She was the head of the IMF and head of Baker McKenzie. Now, Baker McKenzie, there's a whole big problem with the couch casting and sexual harassment and everything like that. And when she was there, now why didn't she clean it up then? And finance minister in France? Oh Lord. I remember when we were driving through France, it would have been the end of the 90s, and the Crédit Lyonnais was on fire. And one of the brokers in the car started laughing. He said, oh, that's some of the bankers over there burning the evidence. And effectively, the next day, you heard that you know, papers had been burned and something like that. It was a set fire to burn the evidence. Believe me, the French banking system, financial markets, I mean, my ex is French and Spanish, and, you know, he worked, it's Banco Bilbao Vizcaya Argentaria, but, you know, we were in Paris with them as expats and in Brussels. So, you know, same crap going on. And this is one of the problems that I have with the Spaniards and Banco Bilbao Vizcaya Argentaria. Because my ex-husband, you know, a Spaniard, macho Spaniard, I'm not going to say he was like this perfect husband, but never in his life was he violent with me, or did I fear that or anything like that. When he'd give me attitude, I'd be like, go take a hike, you know. And when he crashed and burned as director of the Treasury Department in Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia, is when he lost it. And I'm sorry, but the banking system, you know, pushes these guys to produce high yield. Because if not, you get ousted. They get into hanky-panky, as Christine Lagarde calls it. You know, and the, you know, everybody, about 90% of like currency transactions and all, because he was a currency trader, and all of that go through the dollar or the pound, through the British system and the American system. So the poor other, you know, and Spain is not a little tiny country. I mean, you can imagine what, you know, other countries that are tiny and don't have a lot of capital and stuff like that, they can't compete. They can't. Because you can imagine because the thing is when you're trading and stuff like that, you're looking at small little points and stuff like that. Because you'll have maybe 100 million or 200 million or something like that on a trade. So of course, one little point, you know, and this is pennies on the point. This is point penny. You know, you get your profit, you get in, you get out. I mean, when I worked in the stock market, we always, and this was 87 when it collapsed, you know, we always tell a client, a profit is never a profit until you take it, and a loss is never a loss until you take it. So what these traders are doing, you want to get in, you want to get out, you want to get in, you want to get out, and you can make a lot of money just getting in, getting out, getting in, getting out. You're not really producing anything. I mean, we need the trading because it does provide the liquidity that's needed. But it's gotten to the point where it's a cesspool. So now we'll go on from that. So anyway, I did get I wrote a letter to Ingrid Betancourt, Astrid Betancourt, you know, could you please tell the consulate to do something? No, hung me out to dry. Even my own mother, I said, Mom, because a good friend of hers was John McCain's campaign manager. This is 2007. You know, Mom, please, could you ask John McCain to pick up the frickin' phone, call the consulate, tell them they better do their job, because this woman is in dire need. No, don't want to get involved. Nobody wants to get involved. So, you see where I'm going with all of these cases. Now, so I already went through this one, which is the Gonzalez Corrigno. But, you know, when I was in Spain, I got Amnesty International. Spain, I knocked on their door. most of the reports that I was reading by this time, all of the human rights violations, it was from Amnesty International Spain's report. When I go and knock on the door, they say, oh no. I went down there several times. I called up. Finally, when I went down there, I get a letter, some scribbled name. You have no idea. In my day, you got to put your name printed on there saying human rights violations only happen in Darfur, Sudan. And this is something that you'll hear I get it all of the time. They got reports, but then when you want to take something to the court, oh, no, only in Darfur and Sudan. So you see what's going on here. So then, let's see, I get back to the United States. Get out of Spain alive, and I'm faced with labor rights violations, housing rights violations, all over the place. I've had to change 8 times in the past 12 years where I'm living, and believe me, no luxury living with rodents and everything like that, because I kept getting extorted from my landlords and bullied and harassed. Oh my God, the Fort Tottenham house in 2015, when I got into DC landlord-tenant court, that was the worst. First, I had to put up with this millennial witch that was living across the landing, that was so jealous of all the research that I was doing and I was writing. I wrote my Financing for Development, A Midsummer Night's Dream that year, and that's a report I still need to, it's still in draft form. She would come banging at my door, banging. Just leave. I'm the director of research. Literally, I was a prisoner in the room because I didn't even want to have anything to do with her. Anytime I'd see her, she'd start screaming at me, insulting me. It was absolutely incredible. And I said, no, I'm not leaving. If you can't deal, if you're so jealous of me, you leave. Because I've got a year-long lease. And I'm not going to pay out the lease. I don't have that kind of money. And also, I don't know why I should have to. I even went down to, it got so bad, I went down to the police station and I said, I want to file a complaint for domestic abuse. Because this woman, you got to tell her to leave me alone. Because I kept on telling the landlord. I told her, because she sent all of these emails to the landlord, and then the landlord would come and harass me. And I said, look, I'm not bugging anybody. I'm here in my room. I'm doing my research. I'm doing my writing and everything like that, as I've been doing for the past 12 years. I don't bother anybody. Now, you, as a landlord, you have an obligation to tell this woman that she's got to leave me alone or leave the premises. Now, that landlord, let's see, I lived there for 18 months. I started at $750, then she jacked it up to $900, then she jacked it up to $950. When she jacked it up to $1,800, I said, no, lady, I'll see you in court. And of course, since she's a black woman, the judge was a black man, and I got screwed over by the legal clinics. Well, that's a long story. Of course, the judge found in her favor. Now, the only way I got this woman to back off was by writing blogs. Because I wanted to go through the whole process. I said, okay, let's go to court. And I got all the evidence I need to launch an investigation into the DC court system. And I want to know why Congressman Holmes Norton has been sitting on that, because I went down to there again and I told her, well, her staffers were idiots. All of the staffers up on Capitol Hill, God, I can't wait to see them in court. Idiots. And I told them, I said, here's another one, because I've been telling them since I got back to DC, to Holmes Norton, you got to go over to the State Department, because one of the things that congressional people have an obligation to do is constituent requests. So if you have a problem with a federal agency, you take it to your congressperson. It can be the senator or the representative. And it's usually their state offices that handle that. It's not handled in Washington, it's handled at the state level, which is fine. Congresswoman Holmes Norton, she has her office up on Capitol Hill. When it's applicable to things up on Capitol Hill, I take it to that office. When it's applicable to constituent things, I go to her constituent office, which is behind Union Station. Both of them are a bunch of idiots. They all need to be fired. My favorite is Ocasio-Cortez's receptionist. Oh, Lord. So, anyway, we'll go on. Let's see. So, of course, by this time, I'm trying to, I keep on going to the international community. Because, I mean, from the beginning, I don't know, people are like, how do you know this? How do you know this? I'm like, how do you not know? I don't know, maybe it's for my grandfather and John Dickinson, I don't know. But for me, this is like, how can you not understand this? How do you not know this? Of course, this is the procedure that you have to go through. And also, my problem with the NGOs. Yes, you have to build the cases. And to build those cases, you need to do like what I am. You solicit, this person is supposed to help you in the government, well, you solicit their assistance. In all of my letters, you can see, I solicit the assistance, I explain to them the legal principles of why they have to assist me, I, show statistics and everything like that this is not an isolated case, because that's what they'll bring to you. No, this is just an isolated case. Oh, this doesn't happen anywhere else. I'm like, oh my God, you idiots. So, I'm going to the international community, over and over and over again. So we got Amnesty International, not just Spain, but in there. Oxfam. What the hell is an Oxfam? Checking out the IMF. They criticize them, but they don't do anything about it. I've got Balthazar Garcia, FIPGAR. That's his think tank NGO type thing. Once again, blah, 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 blah. They do a whole bunch of conferences and everything like that. I'm like, yeah, well, you're looking at fraud just like everybody else, because ILOCAD, which is his Bufete de Abogados, the law firm, I've sent it over to him. Now, he became famous when he put out a warrant of arrest for Pinochet, the Chilean dictator Pinochet. And Pinochet was in London at the time, and he was in Spain. Now, the crimes of Pinochet had been committed in Chile. So even he thought it was a crapshoot. He didn't think that they were going to do it. So he, put the warrant of arrest for Pinochet in London, sent it to the English police, and they actually arrested him. Even Garzón was shocked. And he did it under the principle of universal jurisdiction. And that's what I've been developing in the past 12 years. All of my argumentation comes under that, because this is happening, all of the different problems, whether it be in family courts, whether it be penal systems, the war on drugs, the police states, the dictatorships that are building and everything like that. All of those things are for the exact same reason in every country. As I say, they get different flavors in there, and you'll get minor details and stuff like that, and lawyers will always come and try and pull this thing. Or the guy here, the landlord, he's a lawyer, and he was talking to me about RICO and the Supreme Court, and I said, well, I find the Supreme Court illegitimate because the American government is illegitimate. Ergo, the Supreme Court's illegitimate. And believe me, I'm going to rake the Supreme Court over the coals. I got a book back there. So we've done Spain, the international community, then Women's Linked Worldwide. They're the ones who brought the Gonzalez Corrigno versus Spain to CEDAW. I said, oh great, when I saw that one, because I had been prepared in like 2012. I think I'd finished all of my exhaustion of domestic remedies in Spain. So I was like, okay, great, ladies, let's challenge this. I got the perfect case that they, this is their excuse. I can challenge that and really throw them up against the wall. Oh, no. I don't even get past the receptionist there. And I think it's Viviana Weissman or something like that. It's a Colombian and Spanish Initiative. Again, where's Ingrid Betancourt? No, she's up in her frickin' tower, ivory tower in Oxford, in philosophical debates and you know, human rights courses and stuff like that. I'm like, come down to reality, lady. Then we get, GW Human Rights Department, Arturo Carullo, which his specialty is like cyber, you know, cyber crimes and stuff like that, as human rights violations. I'm like, Lord, we're all over the place on this thing. Never heard back from him or anything like that. And it was Joan Meyer of DB Leap at GW, who also, that's a whole other NGO and you know, part of GW, who's up a creek without a paddle of all the crap that they're pulling. Joan Meyer stepped down, but it doesn't change what they're doing. She sent me to Arturo Carullo. I was like, you just, you know, it's around the world. That's what the game they play. They just send you around and around and around and around until you finally go, I give up, and go away. But I'm not giving up and I'm not going away. So then we have UN, IMF, and World Bank involved in there. So UN Women, you can go in. There's Cindy Dumas. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that rightly because I say it in French and people laugh at me and they say, who. Anyway, Dumas it's called in French, but I think in English it's Dumas. She did a good job and everything like that of putting together a whole, you know, cases. She asked people for different cases, one sheet, one page. She submitted it several years ago now. I can't remember. It's got to be at least 3 or 4 years to UN Women. Sitting on it. I've sent, you know, I think a letter to UN Women and stuff like that. Now this gets Michelle Bachelet, who was the president of Chile. Before that, she was at UN Women. You see the game? You know, they play the game because UN Women is in bed with the alpha dominance feminists. Oh, believe me, big time. So is, at the World Bank, they have Women Business and Law Department. And then there's a whole huge, you know, various departments under Karen Groen at the World Bank. Like Women Business and Law, I'm going to see every single one of you in court. I mean, everything that I've been looking at, these people should be looking at. I don't know, but they're too busy with their meetings and their conferences and their speeches and their alpha dominance feminism and their managerialism and their affirmative action. Let's get the minorities in power, and they're going to save the world. Was not happening. I mean, affirmative action started back in the 70s. And what has it produced? Chaos. And also, it's empowered the minorities who think that now it's their right and their privilege to be even worse abusive as payback. And I mean, you know, they'll target the whites, they'll target, you know, there's targets everywhere. And that's what, with the World Bank, the IMF, and the UN, and this gets into the international courts as well. Everybody's playing this, it's not, they're not working for the objective, the mission of their organization. They're working, there are different factions, for example, the Indians and all of the people in that region and everything, the Middle Easterns want power for that region of the world. The Chinese, the Asiatics want power and empire building and want to become the masters of the universe. The Russians, same thing. You get the, you know, the whole Russian and Eastern Europe bloc there colluding for that. Because believe me, oh my God, there's, you know, the Eastern Europeans, there were a whole bunch in ICD. And I'm like, you know, they're like, oh, this is so wonderful. And I'm like, you people are all, you know, all out to lunch. And then, of course, the South Americans are with Brazil. Brazil's the new empire builder down there and everything like that. So it's not about a peaceful, future or anything like that, or dedication to avoiding another world war, or socioeconomic development, sustainable development goals. Oh, don't even get me started. I've told them, like, trickle down. Look what trickle down produced with the dark money. This was one of the problems. You think the SDGs are going to be any better? No, because you're ruling elite, because believe me, the trickle down, I know the ruling elite, the American ruling elite, who have let this thing happen. You people at the international level, I think you're even worse, if not as bad. I have to do statistical analysis there. So that's where I get involved with them. Then we get to the universities. Oh my God, universities are filled with professors. I already talked a bit about GW, because it's not just DV Leap I want to see in court, the Human Rights Clinic, but also their Entrepreneur Clinic, because I'll talk about global expats another time. But, when I went through all of the capital venturists in the United States, France, and Spain, trying to get, they pass out $100 million to Mark Zuckerberg, Foursquares. For 10 years, they couldn't even figure out what their business plan was, but they still got the $100 million. I got a business plan that they say, lady, I've never seen a better business plan in my life. Yet. No. Since I'm deposed, trophy wife and everything like that, and out of their little group of restricted group of people who get the money, they go like that. I don't even have to have an idea. They just say, give me the money. And they get it. So, we've got, in the cesspool there, Harvard Kennedy School, God. Mark Lewis, who had the eggs thrown at him earlier, as I told one of the guys at Ralph Shammy over at ICD, and Marco Espinoso, one time when I saw them at a coffee shop. I said, you guys, when they start throwing eggs at you, and it says in the comments below, it should have been grenades, it should have been axes, you might want to ask yourselves, what's going on? Why do these people have a problem with me? Instead of just, no, hire some more security guards, beef up the security, and don't ask yourselves anything. This is Harvard. Oh, and Larry Summer is Harvard as well, so, God. Berkeley, there's the Hague Convention Domestic Violence Project with Shetty, I forget the name, and there's a psychologist involved in that and everything like that. A report, they're in bed with Paula Lucas and the Federation of American Women's Clubs overseas, which are covering up for everything that's going on. And I want to see in court under Article 7 of the Rome Statutes, International Court. So she's in bed with them. When I read the report, I was like, my God, you idiots. If you're just transferring the cesspool of problems at the national level, the court, the local, or national level of court system